I planted one entire raised bed to onions. And nothing else was growing but my garlic and onion. They look great. So every morning I guess we'll have a big crunchy onion for breakfast. This is part of my harvest, and what I'm doing, since I'm really fighting all kinds of bugs this year, I've gone ahead as soon as it falls over in the raised bed, I'm going ahead and just harvesting them. Some of these have been sitting out here for 2 or 3 weeks, and some I just harvested last night. I believe I have between 50 and 75 onions still out in that raised bed. I planted, for some reason they call the purple onions red onions. I planted a few of those, maybe 40 or 50. I planted a few of the white, and the reason being is the white and red onions don't store as well as yellow onions. The rest of my onions are yellow. This is just a few of my red onions. Knowing that they don't store, we've been eating those right away. These smaller onions will be turned into onion flakes and onion powder. Well, I made the mistake of looking at the thermostat before I walked out. It's a nice, balmy 108 degrees. So I'm just going to go through, clean off as much as I can, cut the roots down, and I've got a bowl over here they're all going to go in. Since I'm going to be going ahead and chopping these right away and working with them, I can, if the skin, the outer skin comes off, it's okay. I'm going to get to work on these and get them ready to go in the house. I'm also going to do the same thing with my red onions, since these are the ones we're going to be using right away. I'm going to go ahead and trim the tops and the roots and put them in the bowl, and then I'll put them up in my onion basket. So I'm going to get to work. Well, as you can see by my flaming red face, it's toasty. So I decided to sit down, and I'll show you what I ended up with. Those are the onions that I will be cleaning up good. Some will go up in my onion basket. We'll use them right away. All of the red onions will go up there. I wanted to show you some of the onions like this. Now, this one is not real soft, but I can feel it's kind of getting that way. I have noticed that onions that are more oblong instead of round don't store as well. Our soil here is pretty hard and compact, and what didn't used to be able to grow onions, but since I've gone to the raised beds where the soil is mostly compost and a softer soil, I'm getting a much better crop. Another thing that I've learned, I haven't had any success at starting onions by seed. I'm still going to keep trying, but I use the onion sets, which, you know, they look like dried up little, almost dead. But it's where somebody else did the work for you. They started the seed, and then they usually come in bundles of 40 or 50, some in a bundle of 100. I think those of you that know me know that we use a lot of onion and a lot of garlic. So if nothing else, we can live on onions and garlic. And and canned dog food. Well, good morning. It's the next day. And I want to get out here before the heat settled in for the day. It's only about, it's just under 80, so it's comfortable. What I'm out here doing now is kind of cleaning up my onions a little bit. I went out and harvested, I'm going to say probably another 20, 25, and there's at least 30, 40 more out there, if not more. So, as I said, as they fall over, I'm harvesting. So I'm working on getting the ones that have already dried down, that are already cured, and I'm going to tie them up. Okay, these were the onions that were on this table alone. Of course, I took a lot of them in yesterday, but I've started sorting. The ones in this pile have dried down and are ready to be hung up and stored. These still have green tops. And let me see if I can find one in here. Even though all the leaves are brown, like this one, and there's more, it's still real soft in here. And I don't want to risk any problem of these rotting too soon. So I'm going to let them completely dry down like these. These are just my yellow onions. That's the handful that I found on this table. I've got this table here, summer dried and cured, ready to store. But the majority of these just need to be sorted and cleaned. A lot of people will let theirs fall over and dry in the garden. But now we have cutworms, and they love my onions. So they're getting up in there, and I don't want to risk them destroying them. But this is what they look like when I bring them in. So that's why my tables look so bad, is I just lay them and let the dirt dry down. I let the tops dry a little bit. Here's one that I've already done. I went ahead and trimmed the roots off. It just looks nicer. Of course, I'm not taking off the outer skin, but I am knocking off any dirt because these would be hanging in my basement. Okay, what I've been doing, these have been out here curing. I've been knocking off any of the loose dirt, bringing down if there's any loose leaves. I'm just letting them fall. And then I'm making sure I get these roots up, and I'm going ahead and just trimming my roots back. Okay, I've got all my onions cleaned up, and I'm getting ready to sort them, lay them out to cure or dry. But I wanted to point out something that I found in one of the bigger onions. As I'm cleaning them up, I'm also just quickly looking at them, seeing if they're a healthy onion, seeing if I think that, you know, they're gonna store. But in this one, I found this soft spot. So that tells me it's probably not gonna store very well. Typically, the other onions, I leave the leaves on so that I have something to tie them with. I'm not going to braid. I have braided onions in the past, and it's just easier to tie them. So I'm gonna cut the top off. I've got my bucket below here to catch any of the, and I'm gonna cut it short because I just wanna see what's making this one so soft. I'm just kind of peeling. I don't know if that's a scar. Kind of looks like maybe a bug or something. Yep, looky there. See that? And I'll tell you, that already smells like it's starting to go bad. So I'll be taking this onion in, cleaning it, peeling it down to the good or healthy part, and chopping it up with the rest and put them in the dehydrator. Well, I got my onions cleaned up, my white onions. I'm going to separate by between the yellow and the white. None of the red are going to go into storage. But as I clean these up, all of the stems or the leaves broke off, and I don't believe I have enough here to tie them, because typically what I do is I tie them in a bunch and then just let them hang. That allows them to further dry. I keep them in a cool, dark room in our basement, and they'll last until, let's see, I think I ran out in March. Since I don't have really enough of the dried leaves to tie them, I have another method that I do when I store these onions. With that, I'm going to go ahead and cut off, not super short, but a little bit. And, you know, maybe ½ inch left at the top. Make sure my roots are cleaned up. I don't even remember where I got these little onion bags. I think maybe I bought onion bulbs years ago and got these, but I'm not sure. I have several of these. And so I just put my onions in here, and there's a little drawstring at the top when it's full, so I can hang them up, and they'll stay there all winter. Now, one thing I am going to do, since I've cut the leaves off at the top, I want to make sure that this is good and dry. So I'm going to go ahead with the ones that I know I'm going to put in the bags, and I'm going to cut all the leaves off and let them set out here at least one more day. Make sure they're good and dry, because I don't want to take any chances of any bacteria or anything getting into the onion and spoiling it. As you can probably tell by my red face, it's getting a little toasty out here. So I'm ready to wrap up what I'm doing. I've got my onions sorted. I've got some with the tops cut so they can dry for a couple of days. The rest are still going to cure because they're not dry enough. But I'm going to turn around and show you, I've got a bunch of yellow onions that are ready to go down into storage. Okay, and sorting through all of my onions, these are all well and dried, cured. So I'll show you what I do. I bunch them up, I tie them on a piece of string, and they're going to go down and get hung up in the rafters, from the rafters in the basement in a cool, dark room. I've got similar sized onions. These are yellow onions. They store the best for me. And I'm going to bring them up. Typically, I get the old farmer to help me. He's not available right now. One of us holds them, the other one pulls the string. But I'm going to tie a knot. And I don't go too close to the actual onion. I want to be able to cut off when I need. I just go down and cut an onion as I want it. And that's all I do. So I'm going to give it one more tie. And here's what I have. I have a long string, a bunch of onion, and we hang them. I'm not that tall, so I can still reach up and either cut an onion off or just bring the whole bunch up to upstairs to the kitchen. We'll just tie a little slip knot up here to make a hoop and let them hang and dry. Well, hello again. It's a couple days later, and I have got all of my onions either hanging down in the basement in a cool, dark room or ready to go. There's 5 bundles here that we're going to hang, and as you can see, I went ahead and tied them up when they were still green. They're easier to tie when they're still a bit green. They're not as brittle, and when the tops die down, then we'll take those and hang them up. We've got 8 of them down there now. There's 5, so we'll have 13 bunches hanging. And they're sorted by size. Here's the ones that I'm going to put in my onion bags. I'll be doing a follow-up video on what I do with my small onions. This is what I ended up with. Onions, and my garlic braids.